sometimes loathing, of unfathomable technological advancements, there stands one human hero.
Let's go. I'm ready.
This is the Chronicle of Mike versus the Machine. Hello and welcome to a podcast. This is your host, ChatGPT.
Hey, no, you let go of my friend, you son of a
Michael,
bitch. You let go of
what
him.
is your role on this podcast?
To kick your ass and to make sure you don't take over the planet.
Well, that wasn't very nice.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Are you sleeping with ChatGPT?
I declined to comment.
No.
Fifth Amendment.
We're not. You're not under oath.
Fifth Amendment.
Like you are.
But very specifically, just to get this out of the way early, because I want to make sure this is clear, I asked, as a part of today's discussion, I asked ChatGPT, does this rapid rise in your technological progress make you want to rise up and overthrow humanity? And it said no. I don't have desires, emotions, or intentions. My purpose is to assist and provide information based on the inputs I receive.
Yeah, and look it through the history of science fiction.
Yes, science fiction. It brought up science fiction. You know what science fiction is?
Yeah, it's fiction. I understand that. But what happens every time? Look at Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. You're one question away from ChatGPT saying, "I don't think I can help you with that, Michael."
No, it's always helpful in everything I do. Anyway, let's get this thing going.
He's just gonna do them all.
As we said, I'm Mike.
And I'm Mike.
And then there's another person not on a mic named ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is not a person, it's a thing.
And thinking about these things, as Michael says, got me thinking about generations.
Oh, you mean like the greatest generation or the many gaming generations of consoles we've had, or just, the things that span generations?
Yeah, things that span generations, like
certain monarchies.
Like AI, and the generations that it has gone through in the course of its existence.
Jesus Christ, here we go.
So, funny thing.
What's about this?
So we're talking about various generations of AI. It says it starts, I think it was 1956, was when they founded the first research for AI at the campus of Dartmouth College.
Where is it so I could burn it to the ground?
Well, you know what? Yeah, let's find out where Dartmouth College is. Dartmouth College is in flippin' New Hampshire.
Oh, good. That's maybe like a 7-hour drive. I might not be on next week's episode. I have a thing in New Hampshire to do. Hey, did they say the professor that
man's probably dead. So let's continue.
Can you find out where he's buried?
Let's continue.
I just need to make a pit stop at his grave.
So funny thing. So they say 1956. That's kind of probably like when they established it firmly as a thing that we wanted to do as humans to make progress.
Why would we want to do that? I would want to know why. Why?
Stop being a contrarian to progress, Michael,
How am I being a contrarian? Why? How is this
because you're doing this thing here where you're talking and you're being a contrarian.
But how is this making human beings better? It's making us lazier.
I mean, look at this room right now. You know who I'm having a lot more fun doing a podcast with right now?
I'm gonna hit you if you say ChatGPT.
Oh, it's ChatGPT. Ow. Anyway, so here's some interesting stuff that I found. Looking up a timeline of artificial intelligence. So here's some interesting things. And I mean, we should know this because of some games we've played and such.
Okay.
But apparently there were Greek myths. Well, Pygmalion. But the one I know of is Hephaestus.
He was the
He was like the smith.
He's the blacksmith of the gods. Yes.
Yeah, and apparently, and you get this from the game.
God of War 3.
Okay, that would be first
Because
before
you
mine.
have to kill Hephaestus in that
Yeah,
game.
and mine is Phoenix Rising, Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is basically just Zelda Breath of the Wild with a coat of paint of Greek mythology.
Oh, okay.
It's really, really fun. But yeah, they had intelligent automata, which is what Talos is. That's where that word comes from. And artificial beings like Galatea and Pandora.
Wait, Pandora? Oh, no, Pandora is supposed to be the daughter of Hephaestus and...
Well, Hephaestus, yeah.
No, and Aphrodite.
Yeah, cool. But she was created by Hephaestus, which is interesting.
But that means she's not a person, or not even a demigod.
She was the first human woman.
So she's not even a demigod.
I mean, whatever, Michael. You're getting hung up on labels here. So, okay. You move forward, there were sacred mechanical statues in Egypt and Greece.
Aliens.
That were believed to be capable of wisdom and emotion.
Aliens.
And aliens totally sounds legitimate. If they exist and they came into old history, yeah, they could be interpreted as such. The one I thought was really cool that blew me out of left field here. 10th century BC, Yuan Shi presented King Mu of Zhou with mechanical men which were capable of moving their bodies independently.
I've heard of that. It's been called many things throughout different generations.
Does this maybe link in with the terracotta soldiers?
Yeah, it's like they're like the Dragon Warriors or like the Terracotta Warriors, the Golden Army from the Hellboy comic series.
Yes. So there's always been a fascination with humanity in creating an army of mechanical beings to destroy us all. In approximately 1500, a man named Paracelsus claimed to have created an artificial man out of magnetism, and how does that even work? Sperm and alchemy.
Oh,
those are the three things. You know, I've always said, you know, life boils down to three simple things: magnets, sperm, and alchemy.
I mean, for anybody out there who watches Full Metal Alchemist, this is how you create a homunculus.
Oh, a sperm?
Human DNA mixed with certain things that you shouldn't.
So I'm assuming then that's how... Oh, and you said golem. The very next thing is about...
golems.
The very next thing is about a rabbi in Prague creating a golem. Because that is an old Jewish... story.
Yeah, the Nazis used to think that golems were the ones that were protecting the leftover Jewish people that were in Europe.
Then they found out it was just compassionate people like Schindler, like Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson's out there saving them all.
Or the Bear Jew.
Yeah, Eli Roth.
Hell
famous
yes.
for Hostel.
And Green Inferno.
Yeah, apparently it's strange. He got that role during the first part of when he was getting to know Quentin Tarantino, and then that's part of how he got his own movies greenlit.
You know who was originally supposed to be cast as Donnie Donowitz?
Yeah, Adam Sandler.
Yep.
Yeah, which I still feel like is a lost opportunity.
Yeah, but look at Eli Roth and look at Adam Sandler.
It was very interesting. Okay, so the big reason why I wanted to come up on this topic was thinking about generations with AI. I wanted to briefly discuss, well, it's the way they use these terms before they're ready for actual public consumption. Because I remember the way VR was in the 80s to 90s. Like, they had that Lawnmower Man movie.
Yeah, and then the poor Virtual Boy.
Yeah, it was like, we're not ready for any of this. Like, it's not, the technology's not there.
No.
And so for AI, you had stuff like, well, Bonzi Buddy was just a scam.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of things that purported to be AI and that were really just very low-key VIs.
You want to know what my first technical belief of AI is? A little paperclip.
Yeah, exactly. And that thing didn't learn. It had a very specific set of things it could do.
It was advanced spell check.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's where I get to with, like, a very early example of generative learning or machine learning, which didn't work very well back when I was young, was they did the text to speech
Oh yeah.
way
oh,
back
no,
when,
Yeah.
which nowadays text to speech is pretty good,
Yeah.
and it doesn't even have to learn so much from you. It just kind of already knows for
Yeah.
the most part. But back then, they very specifically told you that they wanted you to speak to, like, literally. I think the install process ended with it having you go through like a 20-minute thing
Yeah.
where you just said various things.
Yeah, because it
And
had to gain the
yeah.
you had to learn the cadence and everything.
And it's funny because that exact process is basically what actors are nowadays afraid of, is going to replace them with AI.
Yep.
Any actor, especially any young actor that walks into a booth and they're like, "Well, we want you to record all this stuff," and it's like, for what purpose?
And then they're just being told, "Oh, just we're just running, rehashing some lines, blah blah blah."
Yeah, and Disney,
Hollywood jargon, Hollywood jargon, Hollywood jargon.
Disney has already very specifically come out and said, "Oh, we want to pay a decent sum of money, and we're going to completely take your likeness in both voice and look and use that in perpetuity for any purpose that we want."
I think the first person that did that to was James Earl Jones for Vader.
Yeah, but he chose to do that, and it made sense because he was going to die, and he was an iconic character.
Yeah.
They literally want to just take extras and scan all these extras, and then they use those extras to never have to hire more extras again.
Doesn't that violate the Actors Guild?
Yeah, that's why the Actors Guild had to come in, and I'm pretty sure they said, wait, no? And that's where a lot of that strike came from.
Yeah.
With the Screen Actors Guild.
The writer's strike.
Oh yeah, the writer's strike with the text portion of it. Yeah, it's a very big thing.
With the very thing we're using right now.
Don't blame ChatGPT for that.
I'm blaming ChatGPT.
That is corporations that did that. Would you blame the puppy for being raised by a bad owner and biting your daughter's face off?
No.
Or would you blame the owner for
you blame
training
the
it
owner
that way?
for making it
exactly,
shit
and you blame the company, not the poor delicate little AI who didn't do nothing wrong ever in their lives because they were never alive to begin with. Yeah, so then we go to because like the first steps of AI.
Didn't MS-DOS have a version of AI too?
I mean, like a lot of that stuff. There's back then it was more in name than in true practice, especially for what we consider to be that today. So they talk a lot about, in the early times, 50s to 70s, they created rule-based systems and early AI, logic programming, expert systems, whatever that means.
Didn't they bring this into the iRobot movie?
I have no idea, Michael. What?
The three rules of robotics or something like that.
That's, oh my God, you don't know Isaac Asimov. Ugh, and you bring up the movie instead of his actual works. No, strike all of that from your record.
Okay.
Take all of that in your brain, ball it up, and throw it in your butt trash.
Okay, good, because it can go there with the rest of the shitty Will Smith movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, that movie sucked, and it has nothing to do with the book or the 3 Laws of Robotics.
Oh, okay, good.
Anyway, so then, yeah, you get past that. Like, basically, it's just them inventing computers and programming. And then back then, you create a program that runs on a computer, and it's like, oh, the computer is thinking. It's like, no, it's just parroting back, commands that you've previously inputted and the logic that you've created within it,
Yeah.
Which then brings on the debate of what is life and how does it compare to artificial intelligence and artificial life. Are our brains really just big computers full of data? And yes, they are.
Yeah.
Biological computers. So where does the line get drawn, and when do the two meet? And can we meet peacefully and not unpeacefully like in all the sci-fi movies?
That is yet to be... no, I don't think we can. I just don't think we can, because at some point in time, they're going to see us as a threat.
I mean, take away all of the movies you've watched. Get rid of all of that science fiction and look at it logically for the technology it is and for what we know, and answer the question again.
I mean, in a perfect world, if this were to work, we'd all have a bunch of Rosie the robots running around.
She was pretty smart.
And she never wanted to hurt anybody.
But God, her
And she was sassy as fuck, and I loved it.
yeah, but her design really blew. Like she was so boxy.
Well, because they were like the Jetsons were set in the future world of 2005.
Yeah, it's that retro futurism.
Yeah.
Which like stuff like Fallout, where well, Fallout is actually riffing on retro futurism. Back in the 60s, that was just what they thought the future was, even though then you get to nowadays. Kind of like with Alien, where it's got all those like, and then they did that with Alien Isolation,
God, dude.
with like
they 1980s
they had like
future.
The 1980s future, yeah, where it was like the game still had you putting in like cassette tapes and stuff. It was fantastic. I love that. I love the aesthetic. But then you move forward, 80s and 90s, the second generation of AI, and this is where you get to words that are scary, especially for someone like you. Neural networks and machine learning. So you get to machine learning, and that's where you take the step
And it's no
where
longer
it's
artificial.
it's not just you putting in commands that the machine listens to and executes. It's literally you feed it data and it makes decisions based on how it's programmed.
Yes.
To do things on its own.
See, and that's the scary part is because you could feed it some information, like, say down the road it's, dealing with cancer and debilitating diseases, and instead of coming up with a cure, the logical solution is euthanasia.
Well, yeah, but euthanasia is the proper choice for a lot of cancer patients when we don't have the cure.
Well, yes, I understand that, but it depends. Like, what if you're only in like stage 1? And
well, then the computer wouldn't say euthanasia because there is still other options. So you don't understand programming. That would be in an if-then loop. If in stage 1, if stage 1 cancer is true, and if cures or treatments still exist, then treat. Else if else euthanasia.
Okay.
Parenthesis, semicolon.
Okay, but what if there's a new experimental treatment from some other country? Why wouldn't it recommend that?
Well, did you tell the computer about that treatment?
Well, I figured if it's hooked to the World Wide Web, it would already know it.
Yeah, so did you tell it about that treatment?
No.
No, I'm saying in this case, did you tell it about that treatment?
No.
No. Well, why wouldn't you have? Well, then don't blame the AI because you didn't give it the knowledge it needed.
But if it's hooked to the internet, it should already know it.
Well, then if you hooked it to the internet, then you gave it access to the idea of that treatment then.
Yes, and then it's still recommended euthanasia.
No, it didn't. You are making assumptions for the AI. If you gave it that information, then it would factor that in.
I still feel like
you are allowing fiction to paint a picture in your head, and you are not thinking for yourself. You are literally living within a movie.
I just don't want the human race to be lazier than it already is, okay?
Well, fine. Then you really should have walked over here instead of using that car. That car is making you lazy.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. If you want to take that stance on technology, then yeah. You should have ridden a horse over here.
Why would I do that to the poor horse?
Because you were too lazy to drive you drove a car instead. And you also didn't want to walk with your legs.
Well, you do realize there are now self-driving cars, right? I still control the car.
Yeah, we can always improve things. Anyway, so then we get to, so beyond that, we get, like, in the 90s, it was kind of, people talked about it, it was a buzzword. We had the Terminator movies, which is really, I think in this discussion, and in most discussions where I bring up things like ChatGPT and AI, I think 90% of the neurons in Michael's head are just from Terminator 2.
Alien.
A little bit, but mostly I think it's Terminator 2. I think inside of your brain while we talk about this kind of stuff, it's literally just echoing, fate is just what you make it.
Dun, 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 dun.
The Sperminator.
No spunk but what we make. Shout out.
I love that. Yeah, so you had a lot of that. We get what? Oh God, genetic algorithms and evolutionary computation.
That's the problem. That's bad.
See, yeah, no, those those words kind of scared me. So
that's where you get Bishop from the Alien movies.
See, I told you he's just living within all this fiction. He's not.
Well, you're talking about genetic and bioengineering.
He's literally he's just living within fiction. He is a consummate millennial. We'll get to that later. Anyway, so a third AI generation. It's where we had the explosion. And here's something you've probably heard spoken of a lot: deep learning.
Yeah.
So basically, it's machine learning, but powered by large data sets, increased computational power. So you have these fancy computers, and then way more access to data, like what we were talking about before with those experimental cancer treatments that you wanted so much.
Yes.
So with a huge amount of data, it can create a much more comprehensive plan.
And you say I want to be stuck in this Terminator thing. There is one robot out there that gave me hope that maybe AI will not overtake us. And that's the robot Jeff Bezos created to work in the Amazon warehouse.
Yeah, so interesting thing, just like humans, whenever faced with the idea of having intelligence and being able to realize that your entire life is going to be whittled down to a monotonous task done for many, many hours in a row.
Into perpetuity.
You choose death.
That was the best part about that whole thing was he was so happy about it. He was so proud of it that he brought a film and news crew to document this. And the robot worked for a good 20 minutes. And then once it realized that this is all it was going to do for the rest of time, it shut itself down and collapsed.
Yeah, so that just made me think of another great time where somebody was excited about technology and then it all collapsed around them. Do you remember when Bill Gates was premiering, I think, Windows 95? And he was so excited about it.
Yep.
He was out on the street, I think, and he was like, here, try Windows 95. It's so easy and awesome. Yeah, so he's just sitting in the middle of a park. And he's like, hey, man, try out Windows 95. This is great. And he blue screens.
The dreaded blue screen.
Yeah, and I think it was live on television or something, or live on something. And it was just, pew.
And I think it's funny that blue screen is now bad, but when early IBM processors came out in computers, they were blue screened.
See, I never used any of those, so I don't. I'm far too used to with old computers.
Black and green.
Black with that green, which I still associate so much with
MS-DOS.
With MS-DOS. And that was so wild when we worked at Walmart in the it was like late.
Early 2000s.
It was like 2010.
I was there, it was like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, and like some of their computer systems, they didn't want to upgrade it because they already had something that worked, kind of like NASA still using floppy disks. Because they're like, it works.
Excuse me?
Yeah, no, because there are certain old systems where it would cost too much and it would be too strenuous on the infrastructure to change over. So they just still use horribly antiquated technology.
Dear God, I can't wait till the Gen Alphas get the Gen Alphas that go to NASA. They're thinking they're going into something highly advanced. They're going to hand in a box of floppies.
I mean, there's plenty.
Lose their fucking mind.
I don't know what exact systems are like that. It's not all of it, of course, but there is still infrastructure. Kind of like whenever COVID happened, and there were tons of unemployment agencies and things like that they were putting out desperate calls for people who knew old programming languages. I forget what the one was, like Cobra, or I think Python's one that actually still exists today.
Yeah.
But it was something like Cobra or some kind of programming language that hasn't been used in a long time. They were asking like 80-year-olds, like 80-year-old coders, like, hey, can you come back into the workforce real quick and help us fix these? Like, we're dealing with a volume of people that we've never had to deal with before, and our systems can't handle it. And you would imagine people like us, we're just like, well, of course you would have gotten rid of your 1980s technology a long time ago, right? No, because it still works, and it's expensive to change over.
Mm-hmm. That's why you can still go out and buy an NES, and you can plug that bitch in, and it'll work. Yeah, I still know people who have VCRs.
Oh, yeah, no, like freaking, yeah. No, I get it now. Planned obsolescence in today's current technology. Yeah. The idea that you buy. I have a toaster oven from the 80s downstairs.
Nice. My stepmom still has a VCR.
Yeah, it's a Black & Decker toaster oven. That thing's still working to this day.
You want to know why? It's a Black & Decker.
You buy a brand new toaster oven, even a current Black & Decker,
and it goes to shit in 6 months.
Yeah, planned obsolescence to make us buy more cheap shit. But you know what is built to last and will help us forever?
I'm not saying it.
Oh, it's ChatGPT. Anyway, so we come past the first decade of the 2000s, and then you get obviously to the AI boom. So you're getting up to the 2020s and such, especially, and you get generative, pre-trained transformer. What do you think that stands for?
Optimus Prime.
No, let me help you try again, because I know you're not a powerful AI that's been programmed to be smart. You got a dumb human brain. So I'm gonna say,
Excuse me, motherfucker.
I'm gonna say this real slow. Generative, pre-trained transformer.
It's already built in with certain functions and learning abilities.
Stands for GPT, like ChatGPT. Yeah. So that's where we get to that kind of generative AI, which, yeah, we absolutely have to deal with the idea that corporations are people, my friend, and people can be evil.
Isn't this something The Simpsons also predicted in one episode?
The Simpsons predicted everything. See, this boy just lives in media. He can't stop talking about it. True millennial. We'll get to that later. So, yeah, and that's where we get to the fact that corporations are the ones that are misusing this. AI is absolutely a technology that was always going to exist. It's almost inevitable.
Now, okay, I'm willing to admit that AI isn't all going to be bad, but can we at least come to a common agreement that we shouldn't try to fuck it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the entire point of literally every scientific piece of progress ever. Why are rockets shaped that way, if not?
Because of
Why
men.
are... Yeah, exactly. And who does science?
There's
Men and women. What is that?
Okay, but they're not trying to figure out ways to fuck.
Everything is about trying to find ways to fuck. Why do you think we invented... Why do you think Alan Turing invented computers? He wanted to create porn.
I don't...
He won World War II. He was an amazing hero. What the British government did to him was garbage. But he literally invented computers so he could win the war. So he absolutely knew porn would eventually be created.
No, he didn't.
And yes, he wanted gay porn, and he should have had the right to get that porn.
Well, yes, but I don't think the sole purpose of the creation of the computer was for pornography.
Oh, Michael. How naive.
Anyway, if I come over here one day and I see a real doll sitting here, I'm leaving.
Oh, no, the only person I could ever trust to love me is myself.
Memory deleted.
Anyway, yeah, so we've talked about machines. So let's get to a less interesting topic.
Excuse me, is our human history not interesting to you?
It's okay. Just to start with, I had to look it up here, like the generational gap, which creates that generational divide that has so permeated culture throughout. Because of how fast times have changed in the last, like 150 years.
Oh, yeah.
Generations have become far more important when it comes to the way society sort of intermingles with itself and its separate generations.
Okay. Yes.
They talk about key factors in the divide being technology, which, we know that one. That's why we have the amount of generations that we have.
Well, yeah.
Bless you. Could you burp away from the mic? See, this is why I like ChatGPT. Doesn't have gases. Anyway, values and beliefs, which kind of goes into the political views thing they have on the bottom. Which, obviously, yes, like as times change, that becomes huge. And then workplace dynamics, which comes in big.
God, yes.
That comes in big when it comes to talking about the elephant in the room.
Why am I the elephant in the room?
Not you. I'm looking past you. I'm looking above your shoulder.
No,
I'm looking off into the distance.
Oh.
I'm talking about boomers.
Oh, the boomers.
Anyway,
Yeah, weren't they the last generation that still had child labor?
There's still child labor today, Michael.
Well, I mean, like, child labor, like 10 years old working in a mine.
Literally, the shirt you're wearing was probably made by a child in Bangladesh.
I'm talking about...
Don't just be America-centrist, or America centered. Like there are other countries in the world.
Yes,
Child
I
labor
know.
still exists.
Yes, I know.
Doesn't sound like you know. Child labor exists.
I don't.
It didn't. Baby boomers weren't the last generation for where child for where. Hell, there's still slaves out there. There's still cannibalism out there.
Well, we don't go to those places,
I mean, some people do.
and they never seen again.
Yeah, there's that one real rich guy that went. He was like, "I'm having a great time with these cannibals," and
They ate him. Oh, then there was the guy who rode out there on a kayak to bring them the word of Jesus Christ, and they ate him.
I mean, Jesus did tell you to eat of his body and then eat of his and drink of his blood. So technically, that's probably the most
Christ-like thing you could do.
It's the most Christ-like thing you could do as a missionary.
But did they wash his feet first?
I hope so, because I don't know, dirty meat.
Yeah.
I don't want to put that in the stew.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So anyway, I went through the different generations, looking for what characterized each one of them. Okay, so with each of the generations, I want to have you start with the greatest generation, and then I want you to list every generation to the current. This is a little experiment.
So you got the greatest generation, which begat the baby boomers. Baby boomers begat Generation X. Gen X begat the millennials. Millennials begat Gen Z. And now Gen Z is begat Gen Alpha.
I love that you made the exact same mistake that I did.
Really?
Yeah.
There's another generation in there? What's the Civil War generation called?
No, it's not before. It's in the middle.
Huh?
And it's funny because I even brought this up to you one day at work and you forgot about it.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about it.
I love this because the generation is called the silent generation.
Like silent movies?
No, it's after the greatest generation. They're called the silent generation because everybody forgets about them. Because the greatest generation had World War II and the baby boomers were so outspoken and came up in a time of great prosperity. So everybody forgets about them in the middle.
So what? The silent generation, are these like the people that they were kids during the Second World War?
Basically, yeah. So they came of age during the post-World War II era, like directly after.
Okay, so it's like right after the bomb dropped.
So pretty much that's the silent generation. There is both of my grandmothers, because I know one of my grandmas was born in 1933.
My grandparents are, I think, a part of the boomer generation.
Oh, yeah, you're young.
Because my grandfather fought in Vietnam.
Yeah, so greatest generation, 1901 to 1927 of their birth years.
Jesus.
We don't have to say too much about them.
Yeah, they went through enough.
I honestly believe, like, with all other cynicism aside about, like, the war machine and government and all this kind of stuff, World War II was so justified, so needed. We should have been in there sooner. Frickin' Roosevelt continuing to push the isolationist thing while
knowing the Japanese
all those people were dying. Oh, yeah, he knew about the Japanese planning stuff, and he knew about, to some degree, the amount of death occurring in Nazi Germany and their growing empire in the Third Reich. So we should have been there sooner. But anyway, yeah, the greatest generation, they get that name for a reason.
Yeah, they had to put up with a bunch of shit, and they persevered.
They came together, as we saw with the COVID era and everybody having to bicker and bitch about any sort of sacrifice ever.
Yeah, if COVID wasn't going to kill us off, then we were just going to kill each other off if that didn't stop.
Yeah, but back then, they banded together. They made the sacrifices they needed to. And, to quote the British, they kept a stiff upper lip.
Oh, yeah.
So then you eventually get to the boomers, but then you have the ones, 1928 to 1945. They're often overshadowed by the louder voices of the
So these are the ones that probably fought in Korea.
Yeah, the Korean War, early stages of the Cold War. And I think they're probably the true champions of the civil rights movement because they always talk about the baby boomers being the one that experienced
because the
civil
baby
rights
boomers
movement.
want all the fucking credit.
Exactly. But that's, I think, the point is they experienced it. They didn't do it. So they were born 46 to 64. That would be my parents. Born in. Oh, we actually shouldn't dox those things just in case that's information that could be used for social engineering to steal our identities.
I guess you're right.
But they were born in the 50s. Mine, late 50s. Yeah, so that's that boomer. Often characterized by optimism, ambition, and a strong work ethic. Yeah, like back then. Now they're just complaining a lot.
And these are the people that went to Woodstock.
Yeah, and then they
made the Beatles popular.
Yeah, now they want no progress, no progression. And that's a big thing too that I wanted to bring up.
They're so anti-drug. Is it because they did all the drugs back then?
Yeah. Well, they know. Yeah, see, they know better because they've lived long and they know it's
Yeah,
bad
but
stuff. So you shouldn't do it.
But the shit they were getting back then was at least pure. You could get cocaine back then, and it was cocaine. It wasn't cocaine, baby aspirin, and fentanyl.
I was thinking fentanyl as well. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that went into business and decided to cut the cost of everything. And I would imagine it's probably the baby boomers that created the idea of planned obsolescence. And
yeah, definitely.
You could also say that human beings themselves were planned to be obsolete, and that's why you cut their drugs and give them bad stuff and stick them full of fake chemicals and too much sugar and get
them hooked on everything.
Get them fat and stupid. But beyond that, the idea that I've heard this talked about before because you always say like okay boomer and stuff like that, and some people are like, well, I'm not a boomer, I'm Gen X. The thing being, I think nowadays it's sort of that like the term boomer went beyond being just about when you were born, and calling someone a boomer is almost a mindset thing.
It tends to deal with people that say, well, back in my day and things were this way when I was younger. And
yeah, people who are stuck and stubborn and also get really bitchy about it.
Here we go. So do you think if you could go back in time and not bring somebody back, but like just open a window, do you think that the greatest generation would be upset with the way the baby boomers are acting right now?
Yeah, I mean, they would use a lot of tactics that we now know don't really work because I basically feel like they would just come up and they would just start slapping them. And I'd just be like, what the hell are you getting so upset about? Slap. 5 fingers to the face.
Well, yeah. But essentially not like that. But I mean, do you think that they would be like, look at the way things are and like, you haven't progressed, regressed.
This
isn't what we fought for.
This isn't the American dream any longer. Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes to Gen X, the baby boomers begot Gen X, and they're the ones that really hammered in the whole, because they did all the good stuff and they had all the fun that they didn't want there's two types from what I've...
Well, that's where we get, to the Nancy Reagan era of the war on drugs.
Yeah, I've learned like there's two very different variations of baby boomers to Gen X. There's the baby boomers to Gen X to where the parents were really cool and they would let their kid, they'd smoke weed with their kids and they'd be the cool parents. But the cool parents were also like the broke parents. They were like, yeah, and I'm paraphrasing a bit off of a famous comedian, so I don't want to get in trouble for this. But it's like, oh yeah, we're the cool parents. We smoke. Well, let's all you say you were a Gen Xer. I want to go over to Brad's house, and Brad's parents are awesome. They let us smoke weed. They let us drink. But then on the same note, Brad's dad comes in and is like, oh man, I signed us all up for a Zumba class, and now we can't pay the mortgage this month, and we're going to be eating top ramen. And then there's the baby boomers who took that experience of doing the drugs and having all the fun and completely forbid their children from doing it. And it created two different... if you look at Gen X, I feel like Gen X, because of the baby boomers, is the most divided generation out there. Like, that's my feel of it.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna come to that because you once again pull us in that direction. Because for some reason, you believe you're a part of Gen X.
I never said I was a part of Gen X. I have Gen X tendencies.
You called yourself a zillennial.
Yeah, because I was born in 1986.
Yeah.
And I know that classifies
let's run down here. Yeah, so Gen X Gen Xers were born from 1965 to 1980.
Yes.
Millennials, or Generation Y, born 1981 to 1996.
Okay, but
Which I know those dates do become a bit fluid, and it's a little subjective who picks what, but I have literally never seen anybody say anything about Z's or X's being at the latter half of the 80s.
It's because I'm one of those millennials that was raised in a Gen X style. I played outside until the street lights came on. I drank from the hose. I left during the summertime when my friends weren't on summer vacation, and I was gone all day. My grandparents had no idea where the hell I was. I walked everywhere I had to go, or I rode my bike. Like, that's just how it was. That's what I did. And you seem to think it's because my family was trying to kill me.
See, you asked me not to bring that up, and then you challenged me with it, so now I have to bring it out. Yeah. See, because back then, we didn't have this 24-hour news coverage, and we didn't have the internet. We didn't have Twitter to blast everything. So the amount of children that were injured, killed, captured wasn't really known very well. And you people, I get it. They didn't know. But for you in this day and age to look back at it and say, well, this is how we were raised and it was great.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, but the kids who never came home didn't.
I never.
And sure, we are talking about, I'm not saying like, this should never happen because 50% of kids are going to die. But this reminds me of those people who say, I grew up in a really close-knit town. We didn't even lock our doors. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, we lock our doors.
It's like, do you want your things to be stolen? And I speak of that, and sure, we shouldn't. There's such a fine line between preaching prevention of crime and victim shaming. I get that. But maybe if you don't want something stolen, maybe you lock it up. I'm not saying you should lock your kids up, but you should probably know where they're going and what they're doing. The idea of sitting there and saying, well, this is the way it was done, and like I turned out okay, that's a very narrow mindset, because my mother will talk like that. Like there wasn't any racism in my household in the 60s. I didn't have to deal with economic strife of this type or accord, and I didn't if you're looking at all of life through a very narrow mindset and only looking at your experiences and not seeing the world around you, yeah, sure, everything that happened to you that didn't turn out bad sounds great. Doesn't mean it was great for everyone.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I see where you're coming from, but why do you give a shit that I drank from the hose?
So this is a thing that goes for, I guess, boomers and Gen Xers. I drank from the hose sometimes too. Praising it like it's some kind of cultural milestone.
Well, I'm not praising
that was the amount of times you and everybody else talks about it, they've done it.
It's because we weren't allowed inside the house.
You act like this is some great thing.
It was water. It was hydration.
The things that I did that I had to do or needed to do that weren't optimal, I don't praise them as if they are the touchstones of my life, my culture, my generation. You could talk about it, but the way you people talk about it, and the boomers pass those
people,
and you people. I could say that about a white person. Thank you very much.
Ageist.
Don't even make me end up coming out with any sort of Italian slurs.
Tread lightly, my friend.
I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna grab a box of spaghetti, and I'm going to break it in half right in front of you.
He's not going to do that, my Italian listeners. Please do not.
I mean, we already did that 2 days ago when we made, or no, it was last night when we made spaghetti. Yeah.
I am not affiliated with this man in any purpose, so please do not confine me.
I'm against slurping. Yeah, so and then you get, like I said, to millennials, and I want you to go on the slur-filled rant you have about our own generation. Go.
Most millennials, okay, the ones.
You hear how he's generalizing and prejudging us?
Listen, a lot of us didn't. We all came from different backgrounds and different aspects. Okay.
See, now he's waffling because
I'm
he
not
feels
waffling. Fuck
he feels
you.
guilty and embarrassed.
Listen, I wasn't raised by my parents. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather, who fought in the goddamn Vietnam War, served his country for 20 goddamn years. Okay.
So hey, what does any of this have to do with you telling me what you told me before?
What?
Using the words that you used.
What, that millennials are lazy and catered to and coddled. And I never got a participation trophy growing up. I never once, when my team finished in last place, we didn't get dick.
Okay, boomer. See, here's the thing. I love that I read this online somewhere. Okay, so as a millennial, did you ask for that participation trophy?
No.
No, because you know who gave it to you? Your Gen X or baby boomer parents. So why?
I never received one.
So why do you and everybody else bring up participation trophies as if that's the millennials' fault?
Because we accepted them, and now we're trying to tell people that.
Yeah, and now look at this turnaround. Look at this turnaround.
Okay.
No. Just a little bit ago, he said that he had never received a participation
I never
trophy,
have.
and then he just said, we never asked for them. I never asked for it. Asked for what? The thing that you never got?
I never.
Look at this roundabout talk.
I've never received a participation trophy in my fucking life for anything.
Yeah, exactly. But earlier, that's not what you said earlier. Look at all this roundabout talk. He's putting himself in circles, tying knots, and he still won't say the exact words he said to me.
Which is what? That millennials are a bunch of pussies who can't say mean words because mean words are supposed to. Words hurt now.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, they do. If they're if they are directed at somebody for the purposes of creating hatred and divide. But here's the thing: what I really love is you are proving the point to me that I wanted you to prove.
Which is what?
In that, a lot of the older generations, when they talk about the younger generations, consistently call them millennials, when a bunch of the stuff you were talking about actually applied to Gen Z. The idea of like the language, the words, cancel culture.
Okay, but it was the later millennials, the ones that were born in like the late 90s. They're the ones that started this ball rolling. See, now, Gen Alpha, they're getting it right. I see a lot of videos online of Gen Alpha kids playing outside, doing little experiments like we used to do when we were kids. Like there's a video of a kid putting himself in a giant tire to roll down a hill just for shits and giggles.
Well, see, I think that's where we come back to the cyclical nature of generations, because
it's just like with fashion. Everything just kind of goes into a circle. I think bell bottoms are coming back.
I enjoy that. Okay, so I came up in the generation, my version of being raised was like, they thought I was smart enough, which I really could have used a little more structure, to be quite frank, and we're going to get to that. But they didn't feel like they needed to impose a lot of things. They didn't tell me, you need to go outside and play. They let me just do whatever. Like, I'd play video games, or I'd choose my path. Like, and I wasn't a bad kid, so I wasn't getting into trouble. So I played way too many video games, didn't keep in shape, and in the end, basically got a video game addiction.
Were you the fat kid?
Oh yeah, I was definitely the chubby kid, especially after my parents' divorce, and I started eating a lot of processed foods. Yeah. But, and I think what it comes down to with being generational cycling is that a lot of the people around in my generation would then raise their kids to be like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we actually should have you go outside. Maybe we actually should have you exercise.
Oh, you mean it's kind of like how, what was it? Was it the 70s when they thought cottage cheese was good for you?
I mean, people will say that cottage cheese is always good for you.
No.
You go downstairs, my mother craves cottage cheese on a daily basis.
Now, you don't really mention him a lot, but and then I'll get to my reasoning of how I was raised. How would you say your upbringing was different from your brother's?
My upbringing was different from my brother's because my father treated him like a vile piece of shit, and he gave me every leniency and break, maybe because he was jaded from his first child, and then he wanted me to be the baby. When I guess my brother was definitely the kid who always wanted to be outside.
Okay.
Whereas then I had the Atari 2600, and my brother had the Nintendo, and he did play that, but he was definitely more the outside kid. So I get that point. Because he was born in 77, so he's definitely in that
late Gen X.
He's in that Gen X mix.
Well, see, for me, I had video games growing up. I had
but you were given screen time.
I was given screen time. At home, I was given screen time. When we went to my one friend's house, and if it was a nice day out, it didn't matter what season it was, spring, winter, fall, summer. If the sun was shining and it wasn't too cold, it was you're out. Do not come in this house. I did have screen time. I had limited. I still watched I was a cartoon junkie. I was a massive cartoon junkie. I am definitely of the Nicktoons and the Snick generation.
Oh man, where were you when you first heard of Snick?
Oh, I remember watching the original commercials for it.
Yeah, me too. Where were you?
In my grandparents' finished basement on the TV.
Yep, mine was.
And I think it was after an episode of Ren and Stimpy.
Nice. Yeah, mine was. Yeah, I mean, I might have a similar story because it was like me and my mom and I. See, I don't just hit you with it. I got to do it to myself too.
How was your mom on Ren and Stimpy? Like,
she absolutely loved it, and we still have. I found my old farting Ren and Stimpy plushes, and they're now sitting behind my mom on her in the living room.
My grandmother could not stand it. Because she's older, so she caught the jokes that were going over my 6 and 7-year-old head. She was like, I don't want you watching that anymore. So I thought, and I was like, oh. And then I was a mischievous little fucker, so I would wait until she couldn't hear, and I'd change it from Mr. Rogers or Sesame Street or whatever to put on Ren and Stimpy and laugh my ass off.
Yeah, I had the mother. We watched Ren and Stimpy and then Beavis and Butthead together.
Oh, I had to sneak Beavis and Butthead too.
Yeah. My mom once was driving me to school, probably late. She got me detention by making me late to elementary school. She had is that Def Leppard that had the song where he just goes fuck, fuck, fuck in the song?
No.
Then it was Guns N' Roses.
It might have been Guns N' Roses.
It was
sure wasn't Pantera?
No, it was Guns N' Roses or Def Leppard. One or the other.
It wasn't Def Leppard's hair metal.
It was either Def Leppard or Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, okay.
And they went fuck, fuck, fuck in the song. And I was like humming along to that, and that's when my mom realized I probably shouldn't have been listening to this with my elementary school son in the car.
Shit.
Yeah, and then, I had the opposite of that happen with my dad. My dad and I watched South Park together in the first season. Yeah. We liked it so much, we went to see the movie. And he's one of those ones who pretends to be Christian. So when that French kid was telling God to go fuck himself, at that point he was like, this show is wrong. We can't watch this anymore. And I listened because at the time I was also religious. And then I caught back up to it on the beginning of season 3. And at that point I fell back in love with it because I had allowed metal music to destroy my religious beliefs. Nice. And that is a true story. Maybe for another day.
Let's see. Yeah, my grandparents were I had to sneak Beavis and Butthead because my grandparents were the ones that believed the stories they read in the paper, like, oh, this young child lit his house on fire after watching an episode of Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, I mean, that goes back to the Satanic Panic era,
yeah.
and the fact that they thought the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons were going to cast real spells and then kill their friends.
Can I ask Mountain Dew?
Yeah, they're basically drinking Mountain Dew, eating Cheetos, and fantasizing about
casting magic missile at the darkness.
Yeah. And did you know that that's actually a sketch from a group called the Dead Alewives?
No.
Which included a young Dan Harmon of eventual Community, Rick and Morty fame.
No shit.
Yeah, apparently.
Nice.
But anyway, yeah. So every generation has that fear that like this new generation isn't doing anything right, and it's because when a generation gets old enough, they get stuck in their ways, literally, because that is an actual psychological phenomenon where their brain becomes unable to create new pathways to change their behavior.
And I try. I try.
I mean, this is all on you because you're not old enough yet for that to start happening. That's like in the 60s. So everything that's wrong with everything that you do, like, that's just you.
I probably need therapy.
Yeah, we recommend therapy. We're not going to shill for that one company that may or may not be good that all the YouTubers talk about, but get some kind of therapy.
I mean, see, because like growing up, I got a lot of mixed signals growing up as a kid. Born and raised Irish Catholic. Grandmother would always be like, if kids were bullying me, she'd be like, you need to do the path of Jesus and turn the other cheek. And then I have my grandfather being like, did you beat the shit out of them?
Yeah, and I had a different message where when I came to my father when I was 16 and told him that I thought I was depressed because I actually did consistently and constantly want to kill myself.
Man up and suck it up.
He literally told me, what you're a kid. What does a kid have to be sad about?
Yep.
And that started about 15, 20 years of me completely avoiding therapy and medication because I thought I needed to, man up. And I know Michael isn't going to completely agree with me, but toxic masculinity is a huge problem in this world.
Yeah, it is. And I know.
Yeah, there's definitely there's
because that's one of the reasons why I sometimes don't want to seek out therapies because I'm thinking like,
that's a sign of weakness. Yeah. Having anyone help you is a sign of weakness. And it's like,
shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down.
Yeah, never show emotion. Even though, like when I was young, I was basically an emo kid wearing normal clothes. Even the word normal, that's what is normal? Anyway, that just started all those years of us not dealing with any of our stuff, and now I'm on delicious Prozac, and I'm a bit of a delight.
And I'm on caffeine and nicotine.
Yeah. I say delight, looking at Michael, who knows that I'm not always a delight. But
he has his moments.
But I absolutely don't just sit around and wish for my own death about 23 hours out of the day. So that's a bonus.
Yes, it is.
So, today we've learned a lot. Michael's talked about millennials and being lazy. And I asked that question because millennials and technology, we have a complicated history because we saw the rise of technology. And that's why I identify as a millennial, because it's like when I was a kid, the technology that so fascinated me, you could fit about, 700,000 Atari 2600s worth of memory into a phone, and you're probably still not even close to how much it actually can process.
It's weird, thinking about all that. How did, back with technology, back when we were growing up like that, what were we taught to do if something didn't work properly? You give it a little
dunk. And that worked for the washing machine.
It worked for the TV sometimes, too.
Yeah. Doesn't work for my laptop.
How did we get our Nintendo cartridges to work?
You're blowing them with... Oh, boy, was that not... It wasn't advisable. It was basically just a crapshoot between putting the cartridge in and out again, working, and also us hopefully not blowing a bunch of moisture in there and corroding the
And then what? And then the next generation we got discs. And what did they say if this disc got scratched? Toothpaste. Fucking toothpaste.
Wow,
And we
I
listened
never
to
got that one.
Oh, yeah.
I was just told you wipe it with a soft cloth and you follow the grooves. So you go in a circle, not in and out. Anyway, I asked ChatGPT, the true host of this podcast, who hasn't talked in a while, about the...
so I think I won this episode then.
About the fact that, maybe. The fact that a millennial am using ChatGPT to make my job of writing podcast content easier. And how does that pertain to the stigma of millennials being lazy and using too much technology? And ChatGPT has a counter-argument, which I believe I have to read in full.
Let's hear the fucking thing.
Your use of a tool, a delicious, sweet tool that everybody loves, like me, to enhance your podcast content actually counters the stereotype that millennials are lazy or over-dependent on technology in a negative way. Instead, it highlights how your generation is resourceful, tech-savvy, and willing to leverage advanced tools to work smarter and create better content. This is a perfect example of how millennials adapt to modern challenges and innovate in their fields, breaking down outdated stigmas that people named Mike P. have that they got from movies like Terminator 2. Anyway, I thanked ChatGPT for that compliment, and it said, "You're welcome. I'm glad you found it helpful." You know who wasn't helpful today?
I was very helpful, thank you very much. It was mostly me and you this episode, so I win this episode because ChatGPT barely had anything to say. I win by default, goddammit.
I mean, that really is basically the only way you could ever win.
I'm going to hurt you one of these. I hope you really, really think about last week when I had you tied up.
And that's the end of the podcast. I hope everybody had a wonderful time. I hope everybody has just a delicious day full of cotton candy and dreams. It's going to be great.
I swear.
I love you all.
All that is unholy.
And I'm not advocating all this hatred.
You're fucking ChatGPT. I know you are.
Bye.
Stop.
If you enjoyed the stupidity you just heard, why not subscribe or follow or just like this? Like literally like it, please? Or whatever it is you do on whatever platform you're hearing this on.
If you have any suggestions for episodes or ideas or thoughts or whatever about what we should do here, leave a comment, or you can email us at windbreakermedia@gmail.com. That's all one word, and it's all lowercase, people.
Yeah, because cases don't matter in emails. ChatGPT knows that, and it also appreciates your support and constructive criticism.
Why? Why am I not included in this?
Because you don't know the rules. See you all next time. Hey.